Nothing the screen has ever shown before can surpass the thrills of
the Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast.
Created from an atomic fireball hurled from outer space,
The Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast.
Threatens man's very existence on Earth.
The Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast.
Battles Godzilla, Mafia, and Rodan for mastery of the world. Men quake before the terror of their unleashed fury. All new, all never to be forgotten. A new high in
Visions from Monsterland. Hello everyone, welcome to the Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast. My name is Jerry, and joining me, of course, is 10 out of 10 Derek. How you doing?
Frying some lizards right now, you know.
Okay, fair enough. And then also joining us is the Italian Kaiju himself, Donanelli.
Screonk, everyone.
And then last, but certainly not least, the man of so many podcasts, I always have to ask him which ones he's doing, Mr. Venom.
The Dimension Tide is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I will agree there. And that is the hint to the movie we are doing. We are doing Godzilla versus Megaguirus. I had to ask Don how to pronounce that like 7 times now. Because why am I the host of this show again? I can't pronounce anyone's
It was your idea.
Names.
You're the loudest.
It was your idea.
It was your creation.
It was your idea to bring us together.
Yeah, I gotta stop making so many mistakes.
At least they're going forward.
Well, you brought us together, so that was one good idea.
That's true. So we are talking about Godzilla versus Megaguirus, which came out in Japan in the year 2000. And this is definitely an interesting one. Japan creates an artificial black hole device to trap Godzilla forever, but a test of the device creates new foes for Godzilla. Car-sized dragonflies called Meganula and their queen, Megaguirus.
Yes.
With that being said, we are going to jump right into this crazy fucking movie, and I, you know what, since the first thing I want to talk about is something I do love from the movie, and it's in the very beginning, I'm actually going to go first this time. I love the opening to this movie with the new Godzilla design set into the old black and white footage. That is fucking awesome. It looks great, it gives a great feel, and it lets us know that this, much like almost every other Godzilla in the Millennium series, is a direct sequel to the first movie that pretty much forgets everything else. And I personally think it's a great way to open a movie.
And on that note, we should mention that this is alternate history time here. Once again, we have the 54 film as the starting point for this particular film. But after that, it goes off on a different course. Apparently, according to this film, Serizawa didn't have the oxygen destroyer, which killed Godzilla, so he still lived at the end of the film. But after that, Godzilla appeared only in 1966 when he attacked the first nuclear power plant in Tokai. And then we flash forward 30 years to 1996 when Godzilla appears in Osaka when they begin a plasma energy research project. And from there, we flash forward once again to 2001, where the main movie takes place. So, need to just get that little bit of information out there so that way people know where we are and what we're going on here.
Yeah, you said that way better than me, so I'm super glad you're here.
So, quick question, Don. How do you pronounce this director's name that directed this?
Masaki Tezuka.
Yeah, this is another thing that we should note, that this is actually his first Godzilla film, and he went on to direct 2 more after this one.
Yeah, he did the Mechagodzilla ones, right? Tokyo SOS?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, against Megagodzilla and Tokyo SOS.
Yeah, and he was also the assistant director on the 93 film.
Oh, he worked on the Rebirth of Mothra series also.
Right, yeah, but that's where he got his start. He was the assistant director on the 93 Mechagodzilla movie, which explains why he does the 2 Mechagodzilla movies later on in the Millennium series.
And ironically, one of the writers of that Megagodzilla movie is also one of the writers of this movie too, Wataru Mimura.
Wataru
That one's a tongue twister.
Yeah, Wataru Mimura.
I can't say half these fucking names, so I just depend on y'all. This one does do the alternative timeline. And in the Millennium series, we actually see a lot of just throwing away everything and just being a direct sequel to the first one. That's right, Halloween. You're not doing anything new. Godzilla's been on that tip for a long time. But since Don, you threw that piece of information, let's throw it to you. What is one of your favorite things about this movie?
I guess one of the big things for me is just a shit ton of cool special effects. I mean, it's just going to start out here. That battle on the islands with the swarm, that thing that's one of my favorite things about this, is that you get a ton of special effects in this film. You get CGI, you get a little bit of the practical miniatures, you get actually far better composite shots, and there's just like a wide range of creativity in the different special effects in here, and it's actually rather enjoyable. I
completely agree with you. The CGI for the swarm of bugs was done really well. The Godzilla underwater CGI shots still not that great. They haven't quite figured that out from Godzilla 2000 yet. Both of those were a little shaky. But the CGI of the bugs, I actually thought was pretty good for Japan, considering they do not do the CGI budgets that we do here in America.
And considering the film Python with Jenny McCarthy was comparable CGI at the time point, I'm willing to give this a kind of a pass. They look about the same.
That is very true. I love Python.
That's why I mentioned it.
In fact, you can check out the KFC for Python on the YouTube channel for Kill the Cast, where you can also find, this podcast. We'll move on to 10 out of 10 Derek. Derek, what's something you love about this movie?
Well, there's actually a lot of things I like about this one, because this one's actually one of my favorite Godzilla films.
Wow. Would you say it's in your top 10 or
top 15?
Top 15, okay.
I like this one a lot more, like on rewatch, and then like the way that this director does this film, it's very Showa era based, where it has a lot of Showa era, not even Showa Godzilla films, but Showa era Kaiju films in general. Like the whole G Graspers is kind of a play on the Science Patrol, that we'll be talking about them in a minute. Do you guys agree on that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
that was completely on it.
This movie actually reminds me a lot of like Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, and I don't want to say too much because I want to have Mr. Venom say what he likes about this film before we start breaking into more things we like. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Derek, to finish your thought on the G Graspers and such.
Yeah, and also like there's a lot of like the aspects of like the story, like the action scenes are great in this one, and the music is 10 times better than Young Gary's music too. Like when I revisit this one, and another note, this is a female composer that did the score. who also actually did the score for Full Metal Alchemist. She's the composer for that series, if you guys are fans of that.
I recently watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood because I had watched when Full Metal Alchemist first came out, I watched it and I really didn't like it. But everyone was like, "Oh, you need to check out Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's so much better." And I watched it, and I have to say that is one of the best series I've ever watched, and I hold very high standards when it comes to anime. And fantastic, guys! If you want a really cool, like World War II German-esque anime that has as much like ups and downs and plot twists and tragedies as, say, like Game of Thrones, this is the anime for you. It is always, oh man, I could do a whole show on just that, but I won't do that. But I like that. I like that that's the same composer, because such a good show.
Yeah, and plus another note before we get into it, we'll probably talk about it more like when we get to these movies, but when this director did his other Godzilla movies, he brought this composer back, and he brought like the major like themes. Like you still hear like the Akira Kube like major themes in this movie, but they gave like Godzilla like this like.
Did you say Akira Kube?
Ufukube. I said it right.
Kube. Okay, I heard Kube. I was like, Kube.
I thought that was a Skype glitch. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I thought that was a Skype glitch. I was like, okay, and then all of a sudden you caught it, and I was like, oh shit, he did say that.
I did, but you also have like this other like themes that they bring over to those other films, which I do like, because I'm actually a fan of all those ones. But we'll get into those in a minute when we get to them. So that's all I gotta really say. I do enjoy this one.
All right.
I'm not saying it's like a perfect film. I do have some flaws with it, but we'll get into those in a minute.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Venom, what is something you love about this movie?
Oh, well, I'm right there with Derek. I like a lot about this movie. This is probably I'm probably going to echo a lot of what Derek said. This is probably a top 15, even potentially a top 10 for me. Admittedly, I haven't seen every single Godzilla movie, and it's guaranteed that you guys have seen more than I have. So yeah, I absolutely love this movie. But just to start right from the beginning with something that Jerry already mentioned, that narrative recap at the beginning, I absolutely love that little recap. It kind of gives people who've never seen a Godzilla movie. And granted, if you've never seen a Godzilla movie, I don't know why you're starting with a 2000 movie, but still, on the off chance that you've never seen one, that little narrative recap gives you just enough to kind of get a little bit of backstory on our little reptilian hero, and then throws you right into the movie. And then the next point I wanted to make was just how fast the action starts. I mean, we get an action sequence right at the beginning. As soon as that narrative recap is over, we get, Godzilla just absolutely fucking Osaka up. And which was just a great scene. I really, really like this one. Another thing I wanted to mention, which I mentioned at the very start, the Dimension Tide. I mean, aside from how cool the gun itself is, how fucking great is that name? The Dimension Tide. That is a menacing sounding weapon, just from title alone. I mean, it doesn't really give away what it does, which
it's
adds
not like
to
the
mystery.
Oxygen Destroyer, where
Exactly.
It's the Oxygen Destroyer. You know exactly what that is. When someone's like, oh yeah, this is the Dimension Tide, you're like, the fuck?
What exactly?
And you know what else is awesome about the Dimension Tide? Junko built it. Godzilla versus Mothra.
Oh, right.
I will say that this movie is one of the most unique Godzilla movies there is. Not only because someone said, hey, how can we destroy Godzilla? Oh, well, let's fucking shoot miniature black holes at him. Because that sounds like a good idea. Like, at no point did anyone be trying to make black holes, much less miniature black holes that shoot down from a satellite like it's fucking Akira. No. Not. And then you have, like, the dimension ripping, and, like, not only that, but you have, like, this movie has a very unique style, and some of it I actually don't like. Some of the movements of Godzilla in this movie are very odd, and I don't know if it's the camera trickery. It almost feels very video game-ish with how Godzilla moves sometimes. I know
Let me guess. It's all in the end battle with the Queen, right?
Yeah, there's just certain weird...
Yeah, we'll get to that. I know what you're talking about. I have a way to explain all that. We'll get to it.
Are you talking about the leap?
No, not the leap. The leap is just campy action.
Well,
I can accept that as just campy action.
I know what Jerry's talking about. When we get to that part of the movie, I know exactly what that is. I'll talk about
it. I'm bringing up that part of the movie. Why is Godzilla moving so fucking weird?
Okay, that's actually supposed to be Megaguirus' point of view. That's what it's supposed to be. That's supposed to be how Megaguirus is observing the fight.
Oh, okay.
Because he's moving super fast, so Godzilla would be like slow into his eyesight.
Right. So that's why there's that strobing effect where it looks like he's kind of like stepping in slow motion.
That never occurred to me.
Yeah, because every single time it's forward facing onto it's always forward facing on Godzilla. So that's Megaguirus' eye view. Well, that's how he's picturing Godzilla.
Yeah, it's kind of like similar to like when the original, the 90s Heisei Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, when you see the first shot of Mega King Ghidorah and you see it from Mega King Ghidorah's point of view, and you see Godzilla in slow motion going like in that last battle of that scene.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Well, honestly, that was the thing I disliked about the movie the most was these weird Godzilla movies. But now that you've explained it, that's not really something I don't like now. So you've already convinced me that it's a flawless movie. 10 out of 10. We're done here. No. In fact, let's get into some of the issues with this movie, and I'm gonna pass it over to Derek. Derek, what's an issue you had with this movie?
I didn't like how they developed the main like douchey guy, the guy that was the head of the Jude Grasper. You knew something was up with him, but I think they could have developed it a little better because it kind of seemed a little stale in that issue of the story.
It was very weak. It felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like,
yeah,
or not that you knew something was kind of up, but just the way they went about it, it didn't feel epic. It didn't feel like a surprise. It was just like monotone. It was.
He's a businessman. Of course, he's going to be shady.
Yeah,
true that.
I mean, so yeah, I agree with you. That part of the story definitely could have been punched up. If you had enough time to write in a joke about him using robots to do the bowl trick, you didn't have time to write a better like reveal.
Yeah, it's like just like the way that like the dub delivers it too. It does seem more stale than it might have been in the Japanese. Because I did watch both, but I've watched the dub more often. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. I'm a dub when it comes. I'm sorry, when it comes to Godzilla movies, I am a dub fan. I grew up on the dubs. I love the dubs. I understand especially for these later movies where there's not a lot changed. But for something about I've never watched a Godzilla movie where I was just like, I hate this dub. I love them. I'm used to those dubs. That's just how I grew up watching them. So like, I'm not one of these purists that have to watch it in the original Japanese version. Nah, fuck that. Give me King Kong vs. Godzilla American dub all day.
Hell yeah.
I'll take that. All right. We will move right on to the Don himself. Don, what is something you didn't like about this movie?
Okay, let's just whip it right out on the table and get the elephant out of the room.
Oh, okay. It's an elephant? It's that big?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
The dimension tied itself. The dimension tied itself. Now let's forget all of the theories and all of the physics involved in launching the thing. Let's talk about how they tested it and where. This is a device that fires black holes. It's, for those that don't know, it is a form of space matter that sucks energy and light into it. You're firing this in a populated area. It's remote, but it's still a populated part of Japan. They have roadblocks to prevent people from going anywhere near this thing. So there's people in the area. You're security force consists of 2 bozos with sunglasses and semi-machine guns. A 10-year-old kid snuck his way through. So that is an example of how tight your security is for this weapon that could potentially suck the entire Earth into it. And you're going to fire that thing on populated area in Japan.
That's a valid point. I didn't even really think about that. Wow, Japan. Your security
for whatever
needs to
it's
go
worth. I mean, for whatever it's worth, the black hole doesn't last very long. It's not like it's an eternal black hole that just sits there and sucks everything in. It's not a limited fire rate.
But there's no way that they would have known that. This is their first firing.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it also brought giant insects.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing.
There's that, too.
Okay, that's another thing. This is a universe with Godzillas in it. So you know that there's some freaky monster stuff going on around you. Now, all of a sudden, you spot this giant dragonfly flying into this black hole that shot off that you're not supposed to know about. This dragonfly flies into it, and you check the flight pattern of where it came from, and you spot this huge, weird, misshapen egg in the forest. It looks alien. It doesn't belong. Nothing is ringing off alarm bells saying, alert the authorities, alert the authorities, alert the authorities.
To be fair, he's a little kid. So that, I mean, it's kind of the trope.
I'm kind of glad that he didn't go right away to the authorities, because that would have been turned into a fucking Gamera movie right away. You know?
But still, it's just one of those things where he has it with him long enough to take it from the forest out to the major city. Nobody's going to notice it. Nobody's going to see this this 10-year-old kid with this egg sticking out of his backpack that's almost as tall as he is.
That egg had a lot of eggs.
Dude, and if you think about it, he's the one that brought the egg to, the city and caused...
Everything that happened is on him now.
Yeah, he's a dick, man.
At least he's an unintentional dick.
Sure. I mean, it is unintentional, but, he waits forever to, warn someone. Not only does the egg hatch, but he just throws it down in a fucking sewer where it then populates. I mean, the whole city gets put under fucking water because of this kid. Thousands of people probably died. We may have only seen 1 or 2, which, by the way, very, very cool that in a Godzilla movie, we got to see actual, horror movie deaths.
Oh, that was fucking great. The 2 kids in the couple, and I'll be right there, and then fucking fam.
Yeah, awesome. Even though I will say, in the dub, that is, that couple, that is the most awkward, stiff conversation ever. I would never believe that they are lovers. I don't even want to believe they're friends. I'm almost pretty positive that they're reject androids that Harrison Ford is going to come kill.
I almost could have been convinced that they were cousins.
Yes, exactly. I've seen brother and sister have more chemistry sexually than these 2 people.
Well,
I mean, I'm from
honestly,
Alabama, so...
Well, honestly, we only spend 15 seconds with them, so...
We do, but still, you gotta admit... and it may be better in the subbed version, but the American dub of that scene, I'm like, guys, you should have redone that scene.
Get George Takei in here, come on.
Yeah, for real. He did Godzilla raids again. He's already Godzilla royalty. Bring him in here. So, yeah, that is a very valid point. It is kind of weak writing with how much they let the kid get away with doing in this movie. But I guess that's just a silly trope, so you kind of have to accept it. I'm trying to figure out a way.
I mean, if they Kenny the little kid, I wouldn't have minded it because it's just playing into the Showa era tropes, much like the rest of the movie is. But then, you have to look at it. They wipe him off of the film after he throws the egg away. So it's like, okay, yeah, he just did everything. Now you gotta, it's an issue with the film instead of, if they Kenny the little kid, I wouldn't have an issue with it because that's just the trope of the franchises. But
Well, technically, he does come back at the very, very end. If you.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying is that if they turn him into a Kenny, then I wouldn't have an issue.
No,
because if they're just playing into the tropes of the franchise.
Who's more of a dick, him or the kid from Yongari?
Oh, kid from Yongari, by far.
Really? I think this kid's more of a dick.
No, he's legitimately trying to kill people as a practical joke.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Mr. Venom, what is something you did not like about this movie?
Well, honestly, there's very little I didn't like. So honestly, I'm just pulling out a few nitpicks here and there. But in this timeline, this is now the third time that they've dealt with Godzilla, correct?
Yes.
Okay, why are they still shooting fucking missiles at him? At what point will Tokyo learn their damn lesson that missiles don't do shit? It's almost like the filmmakers just do it as a plot device or just something cool to look at missiles exploding on Godzilla. It's pointless. It's never done anything.
Well, here's the thing: the 54. If we reimagine that this is 54, you only have that one attack. You only have that one attack in there where they line up, the tanks line up, and they shell him when he arrives. So you really don't have much of it, you don't have much of like combat history with him, because we don't see what happens with him in the 66 encounter. We just see him knocking over the plant. So we don't know what the defense forces were like back then. And then you look at the sequence in the 96 attack, it looks more like diversionary tactics. It's not like, shoot to kill kind of a thing. It's more like, you're trying to draw him away. It's like, more like to me, it looked more like the way they were doing was more like diversion, or like it was like they're trying to reroute him to a specific area, trying to keep him away from the plants.
Plus, it's 30 years of technology there, so I mean, Don's just proved both Jerrys on this show that their nitpicks are wrong. He is on fire.
That's just a theory. I mean. You have 3 or 4 people, on the ground with rockets. That's not exactly a search and kill mission. That looks more like diversion, divert and reroute kind of.
Actually, I think they actually do say that too. Like, we're going to divert them, like trying to move them this way. That's why they're outflanking them and having different areas.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not exactly anywhere close to a search and kill mission.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't get that vibe from the girl. The girl who shot the rocket, who basically caused the death of her commanding officer. Like, I didn't get that vibe from her that she was trying to divert. I got the vibe that she was trying to destroy.
What's up with Toho, and every time there's a female military lead, she always calls, like, the death of someone?
I did notice that, too. Because this actually happens again in Godzilla against Megaguirus, too.
Yeah, he straight up reuses it.
Well, you realize this is, in the Japanese army, women are not allowed really to be in combat. So maybe this is just their way of backhandedly agreeing with that assessment. Like, women should not be in the military.
Wow, this movie's sexist. Way to go.
I don't know.
Yeah, for a 2000 movie, that's a little sexist, yeah.
I actually don't mind a major character, because she's kind of a badass. Who the fuck else do we see fucking ride on the back of a Godzilla before in a movie?
That's true. That's something you see in like a Gamera movie, not a Godzilla movie. Like, I'm kind of worried that she's got radiation poisoning now.
Well, you could always say that's just the suit, and that it's not her because she's still in her flight suit.
Yeah, it was.
She's not wearing a helmet though. Her head is exposed for whatever that's worth.
No, because she's still. Because remember, she dove into the water. I don't know. Maybe she still has the helmet up.
I think actually she does that, because I actually just posted that scene in the Legion podcast group. So she does have the helmet on. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, but it's not like, here's the thing: radiation suits are like 100% sealed. I highly doubt what she's wearing is 100% sealed, but we don't know. So I guess there's.
It could also be. It could also be exposure. I mean, I remember she checks the watch because there's that thing on her body that starts beeping.
Yeah, it's like the Ultraman thing, like.
And then she pulls the gun out and she shoots him in the spine. So maybe it could have been, like she was getting close to being contaminated and then jumped off in time. Because I do know that exposure to radiation also counts the duration that you're exposed to it, as well as the quantity of the radiation you're exposed to. So I know it's both. Maybe it's a matter of, the duration, how long she's in contact with them.
True. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. We'll never know on that one. But I think Don makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that scene's fucking awesome though. Like that's like one of the greatest effects ever because the way you zoom in, you see Godzilla's face.
Yeah, I'm trying to defend one of my favorite scenes here. So just trying to pull whatever I can out of my ass to make it unflawless in my mind.
You're pulling it out of your ass tonight for sure. This movie actually, I was reading through my book, the history of Godzilla Toho movies by David Clapp. And his part in Megaguirus, he kind of shits on the movie, saying that it's boring, it's bland, it rehashes a lot of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I just can't agree with that. I think
it rehashes the good stuff.
Yeah, it rehashes good stuff. But this is also one of the most unique Godzilla movies there is. What other Godzilla movies do you have a city underwater? What other Godzilla movies is using miniature black holes? We have I typically don't like the winged monsters, and I don't mean like King Ghidorah because King Ghidorah still got feet, but like Mothra and Batra, I don't tend to like those fight scenes because it's a whole lot of just let me run my wing right into your shoulder. But in this one, like that fight scene is really good.
You know what's a good thing? You know what's so good about it? Because Godzilla actually has to use other techniques to win the fight, which makes it even better.
When he basically lets himself get, come and stab me in the face so that he can bite the stinger off.
Oh, no, I love that scene where he's like, oh yeah, and he takes the fucking pincher out and puts it in the ground and he does that fucking leap and Megaguirus' face is like, I'm fucked.
Oh my, that leap. Okay.
Randy Godzilla.
I actually know the history of that because that's actually a homage to the actor who plays Godzilla in the movie because he was on Super Sentai before this, and it was a homage to the leap that he used to do on that. If you know Super Sentai, that's pretty much the Japanese version of Power Rangers, where a lot of the Power Ranger scenes are taken from that show. So it was a homage to the actor.
Super Sentai is something we will not be getting into the show because Jesus Christ. There is so much.
That's a podcast worth it to expel.
Holy shit. But yes, I did read that, and so I am glad you brought it up. And it's funny because there's a few times in Godzilla's history where he does something like this. Him flying in Godzilla vs. Hedorah. The flying drop kick he does in Godzilla vs. Megalon. And, of course, the famous dance we get in Invasion of Astro Monster. And this is the Millennium version of that. And you know what? I know some people that hate it, but I love it. I think it looks goofy and it's funny in the best of ways. And it kind of shows, because honestly, this is a much darker Godzilla movie. So it's kind of nice to have something a little fun in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is by far, when I say this is one of the most unique Godzilla movies, one of the reasons it is so unique is it is dark, man. Not only do we see people die, like I said earlier, we see them in a horror fashion die. We see Tokyo underwater. We see it taken by a swarm that you haven't seen in a kaiju movie since Gamera Attack of Legion. This was to me, a very well done Godzilla movie in the sense that it, Mr. Venom said earlier, it starts with action, it keeps up with the action, all the characters are at least decent and interesting, and even the main nerdy guy, I liked his whole computer thing, where he basically had
nurse?
He had the nurse, and then he had her turn into the main chick, and she went flying through there like a fucking episode of Reboot.
And that was hilarious. I love that when he's in the computer scene at the end. He's trying to get the systems back online, and he says, "All right, Major, do your thing." And the guy sitting next to him, he kind of laughs at it and then realizes he just based the computer model on the Major.
Yeah, it was great. I loved
awesome.
it.
I love that. I love that whole scene too, where like when they first meet and he's like doing that little fucking trick, and he has like these little robots making little rice and spoons and shit. I'm like, how did that work? Because we never seen it, but.
And then she just busts it completely, and I was like, "This is how it's done. He's got miniature robots doing it."
But that's what I'm saying. I'm like, how do the robots do that? The way that the robots are shaped and shit. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that didn't make that much sense.
I
It's
kind
nanite.
of had it as more like she was watching him for a while, and it was kind of like onto the game, and then this is like the point where she kind of like let it go because it didn't really. There was like no point in her bringing attention to it. But now that she needs him, she kind of needed to like break the myth in order to get him away from the kids.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I figure. I mean, she has inside information about him because she works with someone that he used to.
Right. Yeah. So she was, to me, I always took it that she had been watching him for a while, but it was never worth her care to bring it up. But now that she needed him, she needed to get him away from the kids, so she busted his game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, Megaguirus looks fantastic. That suit for Megaguirus.
Hell,
As
even
long as you don't look at the wires.
Yeah, but you know what? I just like to
At least
think
they
it's
have
a
his
Shaw
wings
Brothers
moved.
film.
At least they don't have his wings moving. That's all that matters. So it's not as bad as fucking King Ghidorah and Gigan.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, but
And
another thing I really like is they cast like old Showa like cast actors like Eureka Hoshi, like we said earlier. She plays the scientist who comes up with the idea for the Dimension Tide, which is cool because unfortunately she passed away earlier this year. Rest in peace to Eureka Hoshi, who played Junko in the original Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say I love about the Godzilla Toho movies is they always take the chance to get some of their old actors to come back and fill roles.
And she looked good still for like her age during the time period this film was made.
All right, keep it in your pants, Derek. You keep that stinger away from her mouth. She might bite it off.
We're not on video. Go ahead, Derek. Whip it out.
No, Don already whipped his out. There's not enough room.
I love I wish we got to see more of the new design of the Meganula because they look way better than they did in Rodan because you know that's what these monsters were supposed to be.
Yeah, they bring it up that they're in the same species. I think it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'll accept it. What was the other movie they showed up in?
Rodan.
No. I know they came from Rodan, but they showed up in another.
No, that was it.
No,
that was it.
That was it, Boomy.
What was the big bug that attacked the guy on the boat in that one movie? Was it? It was in the opening of a Godzilla movie.
That's G9085. That's a different thing, though.
Oh, okay, it's not the same thing?
No, those are like little parasites.
I don't know why in my head they were the same thing.
Those are like the things that are from Cloverfield. Like when they come out the monster, that's what those were.
Yeah.
The ticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're called sea louses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giant scabies.
That sounds slutty. That sounds like what they call hooker mermaids. Sea louses. I'm gonna go get me a
sea louse.
Sea louse.
I'll buy that for
Aquaman fucking fucked another sea louse to death.
I'll buy that for $1.
I agree. Yeah, so this is definitely not. This should not be your first Godzilla movie.
No.
But once you get some Godzilla under your belt, this is definitely one you should watch to kind of have a little bit of a different view. A little bit more interesting, a little bit more intriguing, and a little bit more out there. This is the Godzilla versus Hedorah of the Millennium series because it's just so odd and so different than everything else in its time. And I, you know what? It does not appear in my top 10, but I mean, there's so many good Godzilla movies that it's a tough competition. But I will say, for a movie that does not get talked about as much as it should, and I'm part of that because, to be honest, it's probably my least watched movie in the Millennium series. And
well, that's all right. It shows up there pretty often.
I don't watch TV. I don't believe in it. I watch everything through shadow puppets that they in smoke signals. Okay. But yeah, like this is one that, you know what, I will put in rotation way more. And you know what, I think this is one that needs to come up more often. I think we do need to talk about this one because besides people maybe complaining about some of the odd Godzilla movements like I did that Don disproved, or the nuclear radiation suit, or just talk to Don. He'll fucking tell you why you're wrong. Okay? It'll work out. So
yeah, this is one of the most underrated Godzilla movies because it doesn't get talked about at all.
And this is the movie that the human characters annoyed me the least. I genuinely actually enjoyed watching the all human scenes. You know, it's not like if a kaiju wasn't on screen, I missed it or was frustrated or anything like that, like with Yongari or, you know, stuff like that. I legitimately was enthralled by the human scenes here. I thought the drama worked well. There was a little bit of hokiness to it. What was the Search Godzilla system? You couldn't think of a stupider name?
That's why, that's all I remember was that's why it's their version of the Science Patrol because they have all these different areas and shit.
Whoever names these things is just not original. They just name it whatever it does. That's just lame. The same person definitely didn't name the Dimension Tide that named the Search Godzilla system. Let's just go with that.
It's like that Mitch Hedberg joke. He goes, "What does that thing do? It toasts things. All right, it's a toaster. Just say what it does and add
This one, if you're a fan of Showa era and you like your darker Godzilla films, because this does have some dark subject matter, I recommend it. It's awesome.
Yeah, recommend.
There's not a lot of deep thought in this movie as for conversation wise, but to throw one on and enjoy just a darker Godzilla movie, absolutely fantastic. Don, how do you feel about this movie?
I'm right there. There's, like I said, there's a few storyline issues I have with it. You know, I talked about those earlier, but yeah, no. Aside from that, there's a lot to really like here. You get Godzilla in action a lot and early, which is always fun. He's got a cool opponent to fight off with in two great sequences, and like Jerry said, you have a lot of good human drama built around it. It's not exactly the most original stuff, but it's compelling enough to hold your interest for, an hour and 40 minutes, which, I'm fine with that every now and then. You don't need, out of the park moments every time out. You're going to wear yourself out quickly. You need something like this to kind of, reset and enjoy yourself. And I think this one works well in that regard.
Yeah.
I agree. Derek, you got any final thoughts?
Just fucking watch it and fry that fucking lizard.
Yeah. Mr. Venom, your final thoughts?
Despite this Godzilla suit seeming a little impractical, and I only say that because of the scales that run along his back, the center of his back. They just seem so big. Underwater, I'm sure that they help with aerodynamics, but when he's on land, those things look like they weigh like half his body weight. And it almost seems like it's changing his gait, if you will. Kind of, it shifts the way he moves because they're so big. Every time he turns around, they move,
Yeah, that's kind of the same way that they were in G2000 because it's the same suit.
Yeah, I have the 2003, which is what, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla?
That's
I have
Tokyo SOS. 03 is Tokyo SOS.
Wait, I thought, is it? Anyway, okay, yeah. I guess it's but I have the Godzilla X Plus figure for that, and that one really big, just fin right in the middle of his back is so huge. It sticks out Like when I'm looking at him right now because I have all my X Plus figures on top of my bookshelf, and he's like hanging between Titanosaurus and Space Godzilla, and I'm just like, that is just huge.
Well, to be fair, he does use that fin for cutting reasons.
Sure,
That's true. Like to see him use that against Gigan's buzzsaw.
Ooh.
Oh. Like impale King Ghidorah with that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, alright guys, yeah, this is one you've got to check out. But with that being said, we're rolling into the Ultraman report.
Oh boy.
It is Ultraman Episode 4, Secrets Before the Big Explosion, which came out 8/7/1966. A rocket with nuclear bombs going to Jupiter exploded, and one of the bombs blew up, but 4 of them are still missing and need to be recovered. Or 4 of them got recovered and one's still missing, or some shit, I don't know. They talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny because this is an episode where they're like, we're not going out to the field, we're going to stay in here, we're going to use our head. But Fuji, one of the smartest people at using her head, she's actually going on vacation with a date. Her little brother is her date.
Hoshino. What is that his name?
Yeah,
Hoshino, yeah.
I'm so terrible at their names. I start just nicknaming. In a lot of movies, I nickname people just because it's easier for me, especially in my notes. But Fuji is one I always remember because who hasn't heard the name Fuji 20 million times in their life if they grew up in the 80s and 90s with Fujifilm?
That's true.
I think Ito has a crush on her, by the way. Ito, big goofy-headed Ito.
Yeah.
He was kind of jealous when she was like, oh, I've got a date.
He's like, what?
Yeah. So they go on there, but our monster shows up. Ragon. How do I pronounce this, Don?
Raygon.
Okay. Ronald Raygon shows up, and I love this suit. The glowing eye. I said it in Yongari. I love glowing eyes in these monster suits. I think it just adds something to it that makes them look where they're not just look. Because a lot of times the eyes on kaiju suits can look completely lifeless, and you're just like, that's so painted on. So when they have them have light in them, it just does something for me. It doesn't really make any sense, but I love it. So he looks like a big leafy version of the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Sort of like Helen Keller was asked to design the creature from the Black Lagoon costume.
Yeah, and she was just like, so I just put lettuce here? Okay.
He looks like if Missy Elliott and fucking Sweetums from the Muppets had sex and had a baby together.
That is the most fucked up thing I have ever heard, and I completely agree. Was it worth it? I don't know. I flipped my thing down and reversed it. So, and also a scene coming up. I love this scene where he attacks the boat. It reminds me of War of the Gargantuas.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when they're attacking a ship and the water's just going. I fucking love it. It looks so. I love water scenes with kaiju. Something about them standing up in the ocean, which doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes when you think about it, is just amazing to me. I love kaiju water scenes.
One thing I have to say about this fucking episode, that bomb has a lot of grappling powers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, when we get to that, Jesus Christ, yes. So, in much like War of the Gargantuas, one man survived. And he's at the hospital, and Hayata heads to the hospital. And then they find out the wake is heading to Chiba, which is where Fuji and her brother are at this hotel for a vacation, which I don't know why they... Is there's a Disneyland or something you can fucking go to? Why are you going to a hotel? to play fucking badminton with...
And why is Fiji still in her outfit? Come on, get a bathing suit on.
For real?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my god, yes. This little girl, Machiko, is annoying as hell. She is Gamera children levels of annoying.
Oh my god, I hate her.
And but I know Don likes her because she likes spaghetti.
I knew you were going there.
Spaghetti and sandwiches.
I knew you were going there.
Hey, maybe a little prosciutto, you know? Wrong show, I know.
Yeah, wrong. Check out the Horror Mafia podcast where you can get all kind of fucking I don't know how to speak Italian. But they say Italian shit. Yeah, they say pasta fucking Alfredo. I don't know what they say.
A little bit of gabagool.
Yeah, there you go, the gabagool thing. One of the most entertaining off the rail shows possible.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But we'll get into that later. So the wake is heading to Chiba, which is where I already said all that shit. But they see the wake out of the window, and they report it to there, and Hirashi is sent out to go out there. And I gotta say, though, Fuji's little brother, that dude is styling. He's got these short shorts on, he's got a white jacket, and a red fedora. This kid is out here killing it.
All he needs is some shades, and it'd be fucking...
For real! He's out here getting it, son.
I'm just picturing, like, fucking Lonely Island playing in the background whenever he walks.
For real. I'm on a boat, motherfucker. And then Raygon destroyed that boat. So they go to get everyone out of the hotel, but they, and this, you can't see this, but I'm doing air quotation marks. They forget the little girl. They didn't forget that little girl. Fuck that little girl. And first off, her mom just lets her stay with these people she doesn't even know. Like,
oh, yeah.
What did she? Oh, no, it's okay. I work for the government. I work for the science patrol. Like, I'm not going to, hurt your child or anything. How do you know? Why would you just leave your kid with them? They just took your kid up to a hotel room after stuffing her with food so she'd pass out.
They fed her like spaghetti with codeine in it.
Yeah. You don't know what's going on.
Do, anything to shut her up.
For real. Jesus. So they have to go back there. But even more importantly, we learned something about Ito. Ito is really bad at making coffee because he uses salt instead of sugar.
Comic relief.
Which, you know what? Ito does play comic relief a lot in this show, and I love it. I love his comic relief. I think it's great. I think he's just goofy enough to make it work. And little touches like this, putting salt in the coffee instead of sugar and having to do Fuji's work, is so great.
Yeah, that's nowhere near the incompetency, like the incompetent comic relief. It's like, the guys like, how did you get out of the academy kind of stupid? Mm-hmm. This is much more of a believable kind of comic relief.
This guy just lacks social skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He still has a brain. He just can't talk to girls.
Yeah, because he's never done this before.
Or he's in such a rush, he's trying to get it back to his captain, Oh, okay, well, it's supposed to be on the second shelf, and then he just grabs anything and is, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I love the captain's reaction, too. Like, who the hell is this?
Come drink this. So, I love the scene we have after this where the wave is hitting the pool. It is awesome. Seeing the water come over just looks amazing. This is where they realize they left the little girl in the hotel. And we get a great close-up of the monster and his gigantic red lips. And if you look inside his mouth, his pink mouth, there's black dots all over his mouth. I think it's really cool when you see small little touches like that.
Oh, really? I thought those were air holes for the actor.
Yeah.
They might be.
Yeah, that's
they probably
I
are.
actually chuckled when I saw it. I didn't think it was an aesthetic choice. I thought, for some reason, I just thought they were air holes. I'm like, why would you give me a close up knowing that there's air holes there? But
because it works on stupid people like me.
Because the big ruby lips from Jay-Z fucking blind you.
They were impressive lips. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Those were fucking like old school 1800s racist lips.
I thought he was gonna. I thought he was gonna start singing like Mick Jagger, like "Stop Me Up."
Oh my god, those are Mick Jagger's lips. Holy shit, Raygon is probably Mick Jagger's like cousin or something.
After he fucked Kermit the Frog or something.
Yeah, you and mixing people today, Derek. What the fuck?
Yeah. Maybe Swamp Thing and Mick Jagger had a relationship in college.
So it turns out the monster found the lost bomb, and the monster also heard the audience and was like, "I'm gonna kill that little Machiko girl." But Fuji's little brother throws a knife at his hand. That dude not only looks good, but he throws knives while looking good.
Oh man!
Man, this kid is gonna grow up to be Tuxedo Mask.
Did the shot of Raygon's hand going through that window? Did that shot not bother anybody? The way his fingers like bent back to show that it was obviously an actor in a rubber suit.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, that bothered me.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, this is Ultraman.
Oh sure.
So we're at the part with the bomb. Like, how the fuck is the bomb attached to him?
Yeah, the bomb's just on his arm, and it like moves around a couple of times, but it's hanging out like, is there seaweed attached to something? Is his leafiness holding on to it?
That is the most grabbable bomb ever.
Yeah, maybe he's slimy. It's just a bunch of body slime holding it there.
Yeah, and so they got the jet running around, and the monster all of a sudden blasts the jet with a mouth beam, which I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
It came from the holes that you've seen.
Oh my god, that actually would explain the holes.
It could, yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
But was that
I
fire? Or, like, what element was he shooting out of his mouth? Was that fire? Was that water? What the hell was that?
Yellow?
It was a weird color. No, it wasn't.
It was.
It didn't look like fire. It looked blue-green almost.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know what kind of energy that was.
Sonic Boom?
Sonic Boom from fucking Street Fighter, Guile up in this bitch or something. I don't know. But Hirashi bailed out. So Ito says, you know what? I tried space language one time and it didn't work. But you know what will work? Music. So the monster starts ripping out all the trees because he fucking hates music, or he at least hates their choice in music.
Which is exactly what my thought was. Maybe he just put on crappy music.
He's like, put on the Stones.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude, there you go. They should have put on fucking Paint It Black and just let it roll. So the monster doesn't like the music, and he sees Hirashi and the parachute, but he gets distracted by my main man, Fuji's little brother Hoshino. And this distraction is also long enough for Hayata to become Ultraman. And guys, do you know what that means? It's time to pass it to Don. Don, break down this Ultraman fight for us.
All right. Squaring off, Raygon swings wildly at Ultraman, knocking the attached bomb from its arm. Diving to grab it, Ultraman dodges the charging Raygon and gets the bomb just before it hits the ground, causing Raygon to jump on top of him. Keeping the bomb safe in his right hand, Ultraman rolls Raygon away from him, while Arashi and Fuji look on from a safe distance, reporting to Captain Mura about Ultraman's appearance. A wild swing by Ultraman causes Raygon to grab him around the neck and attempt to wrestle with Ultraman, who breaks free and gets some separation in the process. With the color timer starting to blink, Raygon charges at the bomb and eventually forces Ultraman to drop it into the forest nearby. As Arashi and Fuji are relieved it doesn't detonate. Now free to fight with both hands, Ultraman and Raygon begin jostling for position, which inadvertently trips the warhead down the hill as it rolls to the bottom, causing Arashi, Fuji, and Hoshino to give chase. As the color timer begins blinking furiously, Ultraman breaks free of Raygon, chops it in the throat, and pushes it away, as Raygon retaliates with a ray blast, sending Ultraman to his knees. Regrouping, a specium ray blast to Raygon's chest sends it over the cliff, where it falls into the sea below.
And that dummy for Raygon was great.
The dummy.
I love dummies in movies.
Man.
It is a guilty pleasure of mine. And did anyone else feel, though, that Ultraman's light started blinking real early in this fight?
Yeah.
Too early.
That's why they... Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. I called it twice where they pay attention to the fact that it's going off. It's like, why couldn't you have done the first one, the warning at the second time?
Yeah.
It's like,
I sorry,
I get it. No, I'm saying I get that they're trying to include, Rashi, Hoshino, and Fuji on the sidelines, that they have something to do, but it still doesn't feel like there's enough time to go off for the warning light to trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I agree. So we had a great fight. I actually really enjoyed this fight. I think it was great with Ultraman having to fight one-handed at the beginning. And it's just when Ultraman gets to fight another monster that's humanoid-like, it always makes for great fights. It's what I call the War of the Gargantua fight.
right. Yeah.
I love them. This movie is actually just War of the Gargantuas 2, which is Frankenstein Conquers the World 3. So Ultraman takes the bomb and flies it to outer space, which Ultraman has a shadow on the space backdrop, which is kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I caught that too.
They think Ultraman is dead because of that, but Hayata tells him he's okay because he's invincible. Now, so Raygon has actually appeared in Ultra Q, and he shows up in later Ultraman series, and has the roar of many different kaiju. Now, Don, I looked it up, and it says in this episode, he actually was using the roar of Baragon. Can you confirm?
That's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing Naranga had last time.
Yeah, because in Ultra Q, apparently he used the roar of Varan.
Right, yeah. I saw that episode, yeah.
Can I ask you guys a serious question, though?
No, only goofy ones.
Well, it's kind of goofy, a situation. Like, would you run after a tumbling atomic bomb?
Why not?
I would run the opposite way.
Exactly. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Why are they running towards it?
I mean, it's futile either way, unless one of y'all know how to deactivate it.
Well, unless there's a failsafe on the bomb itself. I mean, Arashi would have known that there could be a failsafe. So, there is a window when the bomb is active to when it can potentially, cease, to where you can keep it from going off. So maybe there's the slight hope that, they can get to it before. I mean, he was around when because he's still in the headquarters when Mira's going over the fact that the bombs have been recovered and there's still one missing. So he's still there, and they do have the schematic of the bomb up. Perhaps that he had noticed that there was a failsafe, or it was mentioned before that there's a kill switch on the device rather than like on a remote control or something. I mean, I'm no nuclear technician.
You're not? Why do I have you on this show?
Because I'm goofy and because I say the Japanese names you don't want to.
You're damn straight. I've got a follow-up question though. Mm-hmm. Why were they trying to send nuclear bombs to Jupiter?
Oh, right, to develop a planet, because that's exactly how you develop a planet. 6 nuclear weapons.
And more importantly, you made a gaseous planet. That thing's not going to make a fucking difference.
It doesn't. Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, they probably should have just sent like a foam, or like a foam additive to the planet, and maybe like turn the gases into solids or something.
Yeah, or a vacuum cleaner.
The bomb looked exactly like a Looney Tunes bomb, too. Like
a little bit.
Well, that's probably how it stayed attached. That's probably how it stayed attached to him.
Maybe
that's true.
It was. Yeah, you didn't see the big "Made by Acme" sign on it.
Ah.
Oh my god. So yeah, I think this was a fantastic episode. Super fun, super fast. I love Ultraman episodes because for the most part, they always seem to go by really fast, and it's just so enjoyable to sit and watch. Sometimes it's even hard for me to take notes while watching Ultraman because it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I end up watching every episode twice. I'll watch it once with no notes just so I can kind of enjoy it, and then the second time I'll take notes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch it back to back, or do you wait a few days?
I try to do it back to back, actually, just so that my memory of my first watch is still really, really fresh. But just because of how busy I am and everything else, time doesn't always agree with me. So I end up having to take a couple of days in between. But if it were up to me, I'd rather watch them back to back.
All right, fair enough. I was just interested. So Don, how do you feel about this episode?
It's not my favorite, but it's, like you said, it's just a simple, fun, fast-paced adventure. I don't really have too many main issues with it. There is one thing, though, that I thought was kind of worth bringing up, is that when Ultraman hits him with the specium blast and he sends him over the cliff, did anyone notice the fact that he kind of stuttered for a second and he kind of threw himself to the left and then realized, oh shit, the cliff's on the right, I gotta hurl myself the other way. So he has to jump back to the other side, and that's how he falls over the cliff. But they just didn't have time for a second take.
For some reason, I thought he was doing jazz hands after he got hit that first time. He throws both his hands up in the air and then just kind of shakes them. I'm like, yeah, he's
about to Al Jolson this shit.
I dig it.
He's got the moves like Jagger.
What I'm saying is that when you realize is that it's just kind of funny how he kind of like leans to the left and then he kind of like, oh shit, and then he jerks back and he flops over backwards and he falls over. I mean, you see the explosion go off, so the blast hit him, and then he kind of like leans to the left and then he kind of like throws himself back over to the right and he falls over. Just something like that.
So he's doing the time warp?
I have no idea what that's in reference to.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I know. I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. Super good. Anyway, Derek, what are your thoughts?
This is probably... I like this episode, but I would probably say from the 4 that we watched, it's probably going to be my least favorite just because of the fact of the annoying kid in it. It took me out of it. And just some...
fault you there.
And just the usual, like, I think it was kind of retarded that they were running against the bomb, but, Don kind of explained it, but still, I would fucking run the opposite direction of an atomic bomb if I was in that situation. I'm just saying, that would be me, personally.
Yeah. Heroes never run away from danger.
Well, I'm not a hero, I'm a zero, so peace.
Now, here's another thing. Speaking of heroes, this is the 4th episode in a row where Hayata has emerged from somewhere after a battle, having missed the entire piece of action. Hasn't nobody caught on to that by now?
Nope.
And they won't.
I'm saying is that, to me, this is the one where it kind of is like the most obvious, where Hayata's the one missing in action the entire time. Because you realize what had gone before is that, okay, well, he was, in the mini sub. Okay, they lose contact with him when Bemlar picks it out of the ocean and dumps it into the forest. Okay, I can see where, that's kind of like a hidden thing with him. Then you realize what happened with Bolton. He wasn't the one that was fighting Bolton. It was Arashi. It was Ito. So he's not the one that's going to be there to notice it. Then when you get into... was it Naranga? He's the one that's trapped by the debris, so nobody's going to notice that he wasn't there. But now this is the first time where everybody else is involved in the action, but he's not. So it's kind of like, you start realizing, okay, this is the 4th time where he's emerged out of nowhere just at the split second when the battle's over. Nobody's realized what's going on.
I think they all were convinced that Ultraman was dead because of the nuclear device going off. So I think they just kind of were like, well, he can't possibly be Ultraman. He'd be, a pile of goo right now. So I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. I totally agree with you. I mean, it's the Clark Kent Superman taking his glasses off thing all over again. But at the same time, like I said, since this one had to do with Ultraman flying into space, taking a nuclear weapon out there, and then the weapon going off, he basically did a Dark Knight Rises.
I'm the hero this town needs right now.
There you go.
Fair enough. Well,
fair enough. And like I said, I did enjoy the episode. Still, probably my least favorite of the 4 so far.
Yeah, it's probably same here. Not
they
bad.
should have killed the little girl.
Not a bad episode, but it's just you realize the other three have been so good. You kind of just have to place it at the bottom just because there's only 4 so far.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it holds up on the next episode. Secret of the Mila Gonda?
Mila Gonda?
Mila Gonda. Milo Genda? My gender? I don't know what that says.
Vigena.
Your gender's a secret, Jer?
Yes.
Vagina Dentana?
Oh, no.
Something. I don't know. So yeah, we will return for Ultraman for episode 5, and we will of course be covering another Kaiju movie. And since we did Godzilla this one, next episode will be a non-Godzilla movie. So who knows what we'll cover then? But before we get out of here, it is time to pimp stuff. So this time we're gonna let Mr. Venom go first. Mr. Venom, pimp where people can find you.
All right. Well, 2 of my podcasts that were on hiatuses are now back in action. That would be the Horrorcast and Rad Radio, the All 80s podcast. You can find the Horrorcast on the Phantom Podcast Network, which is at downrightcreepy.com. You can find Rad Radio. Fingers crossed, you should be able to find future episodes of Rad Radio on the Horrorphilia Network, as Mr. Mark Nato and Jason Lloyd have finally come to an agreement on that. You can also hear me on Evil Episodes Presents Just the Movies with Mr. Mike Merriman. Mike Merriman also joins me on the Theme Warriors podcast, where we just recorded my 3rd episode with the gang just last night. So that should be out sometime this week.
Oh, boy.
And then, did I miss one? I think I
don't know.
missed
You
one.
have like 8 podcasts.
Yeah, I've got like 6 or 7, and then I got a new one coming out with a couple of the guys from the Horror Mafia podcast, a couple of Don and Nelly's cohorts there from the Horror Mafia podcast. We haven't really made any official announcements on that one yet, so I'm gonna stay hush-hush on that one for a little bit. But yeah, we're going to be recording episode 1 of that podcast. That will be available on the Horrorphilia network. And tell you what, I'm not going to tell you what the podcast is about, but I'll give you the title. Because the title will tell you absolutely nothing about the podcast. So the name of that podcast is going to be Beneath the Zenith. So go ahead and wrap your little brains around that one.
Beneath the Zenith.
Exactly. Yes. It is not a horror movie podcast. It's not even truly a movie podcast in general. There is a specific topic that we'll tackle every week or every 2 weeks on the show. But like I said, once we make a formal announcement, I'll be able to share more information on that one.
Nice.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we will move right on to Don. Let us know where we can find you at.
Alrighty. Well, much like Jerry said, you can find me on Horror Mafia. We just released an episode for Derek a couple weeks ago. And we should release our newest episode. Will be out by the time you hear this. It's a list episode involving 10 films that we wish were a franchise.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's
Nice.
going to be good.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one. You can also find us on Horrorphilia. We have a Patreon page, and yeah, you can find my blog writing as well. I haven't had much time to do it because it's the 4th of July, getting all kinds of family plans situated, and I'm writing screeners for various film festivals around the world. But yeah, it's still in action. I still write there, and I think that's it. So yeah.
All right, 10 out of 10, Derek.
Well, right after I get off of you fine gentlemen, I'm going to be recording episode 16 of Cinema Attack. Oh, 17, my bad. I lose count because I'm getting into the double digits now.
Yeah, what do you cut to the chase? Come on.
You know. Hey, okay. Wrong show again. I know. But, yeah, we're recording our Tartan Agent Extreme show where we're going to review 3 movies that were released by Tartan Agent Extreme. So excited for that. So I'm going to get some water in me and...
Is the episode going to be called What in Tarnation?
Imagine.
Or what in Tartanation?
I couldn't help it. I could not help myself. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, guys.
Continue.
But that's about it. I'm going to be recording that right after we get offline, so...
As for me, I, of course, am at Kill the Cast, which is where this show comes out. It comes out on the Kill the Cast feed, which you can find on iTunes, all that good stuff, Podbean, and in association with Legion Podcast. We just dropped our episode 50, where we asked the question, in the Horror Coliseum, who should have the title of Best Summer Camp Slasher Film? Sleepaway Camp versus The Burning. We even brought in Alex Edwards from the Skeleton Crew, Banana Laser, and Married with Children podcast to help us, because it was such a big, batch. It was a giant one. And I am also filling in for Dan Chase right now, back on the Married with Children podcast. So if you missed me there, I'm back for a little bit. And
I will say this, as a person that promotes over 100 podcasts every week, if you have 3 hours to listen to anything, check out episode 50 for Kill the Cast.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that is
awesome.
That is
Really
3
good.
hours worth your time. Even if you normally do several at once, for 3 hour drive, put that one on. Not gonna
we normally try to keep Kill the Cast shows, much like Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, under 2 hours. But when we do a horror coliseum, it always goes over. And but we keep that one moving. It's a very fun episode. I still cannot believe, I'm going to spoil something, that Kenneth said Sleepaway Camp has no atmosphere. Still can't believe it to this day.
Well, he wasn't a fan of opera either. I'm just saying, but
I'm actually going to lean towards agreeing with him.
Damn it!
Sleepaway Camp is one of those movies that's known for one scene and one scene only. Now, granted, it's an iconic scene, but I mean, the rest of the movie is subpar to me.
You're
personally,
making my female penis very angry.
I'm very sorry. I'll give it a little rub later. But yeah, in my opinion, The Burning is head and shoulders above Sleepaway Camp. Spoiler.
So yeah, guys, definitely check that out. Links in the description for, of course, Cinema Attack and Horror Mafia and Theme Warriors / Evil Episodes This Movie / Horrorcast /
everything else.
all just 80s all Rad Radio, Mick Jagger, Ray Gon Lips, them, and then soon Beneath the Zenith. Which is actually, I figured it out, it's about Magic the Gathering, because there was that 5-card set where each color got a zenith.
That would actually make sense, since Bill Casanelli is a big board game and card game player.
Yeah, so I'm pretty positive.
Don't bet
that's
any
what
money
it's
on it.
about. If it's not about that, I think it's a book club. I'm not sure. I'm guessing here. We'll find out later. If it's not out by the next time we record, hopefully he'll give us some information. But it should be. So either way, for everyone out there, these were the visions from Monsterland. Thank you for joining the Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space. We will see you next time.
let's fry that lizard.